Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric and a continuing series on the 3DO and Konami M2 arcade platform. And because I've been talking a lot more about the 3DO M2 lately, including dumping the source code to the portfolio operating system for the M2, one of the biggest questions I keep getting is, can you emulate the Konami M2 on MAME? So I figured I would talk about the emulation status of M2, how it's currently performing, and maybe what could be done in the future to make it better, because my goal is to get you playing all of these games. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like, subscribe, and that notification bell definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we have a Patreon link down below in the description as well. But right off the top, we're going to take a look at Tobe Polystars, and this is running in MAME, and everything looks perfectly fine. Now I will say right off the top, there are sound glitches in the MAME emulation. Basically, there's like a 1 second delay between one sound source playing and a duplicate sound source playing, so you're going to get duplicating audio, which will drive you a little bit nuts, but it's not a deal breaker. But moving over to the original capture from my Polystars board on the Konami M2, you can certainly see it's running a lot more fluid. But the fact is, for 4 out of the 5 Konami M2 games, you can play them on MAME today. Now your results may vary. I am using an i9-12900K with a 3080 Ti, even though the GPU doesn't have anything to do with it, but you're going to need a pretty beefy processor. But going right into Polystars on MAME, it is 100% playable. It is not running at full speed unless you put frame skip on, but I'm just showing you guys what it looks like with no frame skip whatsoever. But if you want to experience the 3DO M2 and you want to play Tobe Polystars today, you can go do it on MAME. This game can be completed from start to finish, and it's running, by my estimation and looking at some of the timings and frame counters, about 70% full speed. The game can get up to 100% at least on my CPU, but the more that's on the screen at once, bullet-wise, it's going to be a lot slower. Now moving over to the original capture outside of the color shift, because this is an RGB board going through an upscaler, you can certainly see it is much faster side by side. And if we put the two sources next to each other, you're really going to see how much MAME is lagging behind. We're already almost into the game playing by the time you've dropped down with your character ship on MAME. Now that's not to drag the MAME emulation. The person that did this is quite accomplished, and the fact that it's running at all is extremely impressive. And the fact that all the graphics look correct is really nice too. The emulation of Bulldog here, as far as what the visuals are putting on the screen are concerned, look identical to the original hardware. So at least as far as how the imagery is concerned and how it is drawing the graphics, that seems to be one-to-one accurate. The issue here is just speed. The MAME driver is not able to run these games at full speed yet, but if you want to play Tobe Polystars, you can. And that's the awesome thing. You don't have to be a hardcore collector, i.e. nutbag like me, to collect all of this hardware. You can experience a 3DO M2 on MAME today, and that is incredible because I'm always advocating for people being able to play rare things, and the fact that this is functioning at this point in time whatsoever is amazing. If you want to play a 3DO M2 game today, just go download the ROMs for some of the Konami M2 board games, and you can be playing it. You didn't have to experience it back in the day in an arcade cabinet or collect rare and expensive original hardware like I did. I would say Total Vice is relatively playable as well. Putting these captures side by side, they're not going to start timing up until you're going to see a pane of glass breaking. Now, the lightgun emulation is tricky. You do need to go to the top left-hand corner of the screen to reload your gun because you had to shoot off-screen in the game, and that's something that could probably be patched up relatively easy in MAME with just a little extra work. Some games allow you to reload with a button. But you'll see here, they both look spectacular for what the 3DO M2 could do. And even if Total Vice is playing a little bit slower, it is still fully functional. But go ahead and listen to the sound, because that is probably the thing that needs the most work, and I'll be back in 30 seconds and we'll keep seeing how MAME's doing with them too. Pretty apparent there are sound issues in the MAME driver for M2. It seems like it's playing the same sound source, except it's playing it twice with about a quarter to a half second delay, so you're definitely getting some duplication in there. But you can play Total Vice from start to finish and experience what M2 could have been like. Now, one of the games I get the most questions about when I talk about the 3DO M2 is Battle Tryst. There's a big contingent of people out there who love rare 3D fighting games, and I'm definitely one of them. That's why I own it, because I've been looking for Fighting Bujutsu, one of Konami's other rare 3D fighting games, for a very long time with no results. Sadly, unfortunately, in MAME, this is as much as you're going to get out of Battle Tryst. It is using a different graphical rendering mode that the M2 is capable of that hasn't been addressed in MAME yet. So this is one game you definitely can't experience. But moving on to Evil Knight, the other lightgun game on the M2, and it debates with myself whether I like this one better than Total Dice. It just depends when you ask me what I would say. At least the intro seems to be running about 85 to 90% of the full speed of what the original hardware board would do. Now again, I remind you, I am using a very, very fast, very modern processor because I am a film editor and filmmaker for a living, so this is what's in my studio PC. Your results may vary, but I have talked to other people playing this on, a couple generations old i7, and they're getting good speeds out of it too. But watching the intro on an original hardware board, it is basically doing the same thing, and the real takeaway here is, at least as far as the graphics of the 3DO M2 are concerned, with the Bulldog ASIC, it's a GPU with other functions in it, including RAM accessing, so it's not just a pure GPU. The emulation of that chip is quite good because these games look like they're supposed to look. The sound is a little bit off, it's not quite full speed, but when you put the two games side by side, you're going to see just how close they really do look to each other. Original hardware on the left and MAME on the right. Of course, MAME is running slower, but they both look exactly alike. Obviously, MAME is a little bit more vibrant. That's because I have to deal with RGB capturing off the arcade boards, but all of the graphics are rendering correctly, and that is a big step, and usually one that takes a little bit of time. Like I said, unfortunately though, when a lot starts going on with Evil Knight, it starts to look a little bit like a slideshow, but we can fix that, because in MAME there is an option called frame skip, and that is going to remove certain frames to allow this to run at a fuller speed. And you'll see as I kick it in here, the screen is going to get a lot smoother. Now we're operating at about 90% of the full speed of an original board. And obviously the reload's still a little bit finicky, but if you want to play Evil Knight from start to finish, if you want to experience it, all you need to do is find the files, pop them into MAME along with the driver files for the BIOS and other security chips, and you can be playing this game today, and it looks exactly like it's supposed to, and that is the takeaway. But the real thing is, where is emulation for M2 going to go from here? Well, the reality is, if you didn't see my video, I'll leave a link in the description below. I just released with some friends the source code for Portfolio, which is basically the operating system that the M2 runs on. And inside of that, there's a lot more information about how the hardware functions, and that should go to improve this greatly one day. Might not be next week, might not be next month, but it will happen. And the last game on the 3DO M2 is Heat of 1198. It's not my favorite game in the world, but it's definitely one that people might want to check out. Here it is running on the original 3DO M2 hardware, and will transition very shortly over to MAME, and you will see that it's about 65 to 70% of full speed. Now, I'm not a huge soccer fan, I don't play a ton of soccer games, so honestly, to me, I don't really care if this works well in MAME, but for you, if you want to check it out, I do care. So 4 out of the 5 3DO M2 games from the arcades are fully playable on MAME. They're running 65 to 85% of full speed, at least on my i9-12900K. Your results may vary. But if you want to play the 3DO M2 today, it is not just in the hands of rare collectors like me. You can download it, you can check it out. If you have any questions, leave them down below. Short of that, I hope you guys do check out some 3DO M2 emulation because it is quite fun. I'll have videos throughout the week. Hit like and subscribe, and we will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.